Today I'm going to talk about my experiences of working with ultra endurance athletes. As you probably know, I've worked with a lot of ultra endurance athletes over recent years, including Jenny Graham, who broke the round the world record. People can actually ride for a long time. Most people, if given the speed, if they ride slow enough, they could probably ride for 12 hours. You know, maybe not actually riding for 12 hours, but they could spend 12 hours doing a ride. So if you imagine you went out yourself, even if you're not a regular cyclist, you cycled 10 miles, had a coffee and a cake, and then cycled a bit further, and then had another coffee and cake at a cafe or whatever, and then cycled home. You might have spent 12 hours cycling, but it would have been very slow. And obviously the fitter you get, the faster that gets. But so it's not really the duration that's the problem, it's the pace that's the problem. So that's something that I found after actually from working with Jenny. Been working for a while together, and she said, well look, I think I can handle the spending the time on the bike and the short periods of time off in the evenings, but really it's the speed that's important. In fact, a good system that works is working on speed during the week when you've got a bit less time, and working on endurance at the weekend when people have a bit more time. And if you've watched other of my videos, you'll realise that that's a philosophy I use quite a lot. Also, what I'd assumed is that people who spend a lot of time out on the bike, enduring riding in the outdoors and experiencing the outdoors, and a lot of people, endurance cyclists, actually have a lot of other outdoor hobbies, wouldn't really want to train on an indoor trainer. But actually that's not the case, and a lot of ultra endurance athletes are quite happy to train on indoor trainers, and it's a really valuable way of training because it's so focused, it's very time efficient, and it's a great way to build speed that you can then move on into your endurance type rides. So now I would include interval sessions on an indoor trainer as part of an ultra endurance athlete's training program. From those 2 points, you can probably deduce with a bit of thought that what we're trying to do is train for the highest possible speed without getting tired. And after you're actually racing for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you can't really afford to be getting much more tired after the first couple of days. Obviously you're going to get tired, and you're going to stay tired throughout your event, but you can't be getting more and more tired. If you think about that, you probably realise that's the case. So basically, if you can manage 2 days at a certain pace, you can probably manage a week at that pace, apart from the fact that you're going to be more and more sleep deprived. What I should say is, if you like these videos, please give it a like and a subscribe. If you don't like it, give it a dislike so I can understand what I'm doing wrong and what I can improve. And please add a comment if you've got any questions. It's really nice to interact with people. So another thing that I found is when I coached particularly ultra distance athletes, not having too strongly, it's important to have a detailed plan, but having a strict plan or being strict about the adherence to the plan isn't particularly important. What I found is that obviously if you're going to do an ultra endurance event, you've got to have a bit of ingenuity and be able to organise yourself and your own life, and leaving some flexibility to the athlete is actually quite an effective way to go. I mean, essentially, if you're going to do a bike packing event, an ultra endurance type event, or a stage race, a mountain bike stage race, for instance, you have to like riding your bike. If you're going to spend 10 hours or 12 hours or even 16 hours on a bike every day, then you're going to like riding your bike. So it's just a case of giving these sort of stimuli and suggestions, and giving them sort of harder sessions to build up that pace that's important, and leaving some flexibility within the program and interacting with the athlete to make sure that they don't overdo it. And that's something that you could include in your own training programs. Another thing that's quite useful to know is that including some cross-training in the plan isn't a bad thing. So for instance, well, going back to Jenny, actually, she's a really good example. She worked with the Mountain Rescue she lives in Inverness, so in the Scottish Highlands, and she had Mountain Rescue training days, which we interspersed with her training, because she was committed to doing that and working with the Mountain Rescue. And I believe that actually enhances the training rather than detracts from it. It's got many benefits. It's actually an endurance exercise. You're out all day, you're going to be getting tired, wet and cold, and dealing with adverse weather conditions. But also the fact that you're doing something like walking is quite a high, more of an impact activity. So that's really good for bone density, and that's particularly the case for female athletes who are a little bit more prone to osteoporosis than male athletes. Face-to-face meetings are at least as useful as the actual training plan. Discuss logistics, how the things are progressing in terms of planning equipment, organising equipment, and as you get closer to the event, doing things which I like to call what ifs, which so what if you have a puncture, what if you have a mechanical problem, what if X happens, and what if something you don't expect to happen happens, and so that you can actually prepare for these things in advance, so that if something goes wrong during your event, then you can be in a much better place to deal with it and move forward, and therefore you're more likely to have a successful event. So it's actually these face-to-face sessions are really useful. And that's it. So I hope that you found that useful. Please let me know if you've got some other things to add to the to my knowledge or to the group's knowledge, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.